So tansin na totamak, kamamag nitsigasan, pigitawakan skahigan sturgeon lake creation ochinia, Mackenzie nitsigasan. Hello, my name is Mackenzie, and I am the project manager with Indigenous Tourism Alberta. And I'm very excited today. We have a webinar on creating content. So we're going to go through the idea of what is content, how can we create content, and then a little bit of other things too. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Before I start though, I want to acknowledge that I am on Treaty 6 territory and that we are broadcasting all over Alberta, and Alberta sits on the traditional territories of 6, 7, 8, 10, and 4. And so I make Treaty 6 home in Amiskwaciwâskahikan, which is Edmonton, Alberta. I also want to acknowledge today is a really important day. Today is Orange Shirt Day. So I'm wearing my orange shirt today. My Children's Are a Sacred Bundle by a Blackfoot artist named Calum, and he's in Calgary. But I love this design, and so today we wear orange on September 30th. It is a nationally recognized day for giving thoughts to those who have been affected by residential schools and those who were lost during this time. So we ask that people wear orange, and this came from a story with a lady named Phyllis, and on her very first day of going to mission school, residential school, she wore an orange shirt, and she was very excited about wearing this orange shirt. And in her story, she was stripped of the shirt, given a uniform, and she's never seen that shirt since. So this, in 2013, Orange Shirt Day became a nationally recognized day, and we chose that color orange because for all of Phyllis's life, she believed that orange was a color that reminded her that she was unwanted, and so we wear this color to remind children that they are wanted, that children are important, and that children are our sacred bundle in our communities. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it is also Orange Shirt Day today as well. Thank you. So if you haven't realized already, my name is Mackenzie and I'm the project manager, and I'm going to be the presenter today. So today we're going to talk about creating content. These are our objectives for the day. Is we're going to go through, first off, what is content? What does content mean? The second is we're going to go through some tips and tricks on how to create effective content, and then how to use that content, where it will be the most effective, how you can use this content that you've just created. Then we're also going to go through some best practices for Indigenous content, just because when we're dealing with culture, it's a little bit different than just regular content as well. I also wanted to tell you all that we do have a question and answer poll. So if at any point in time you have any questions, feel free to click on that Q&A, and you can type in any questions that you have for me, and I will have a question portion at the end of this whole presentation. Okay, so first off, what is content? So content marketing has been around for a long time. We've seen it used in newspapers for eons. We've seen it used on billboards, and nowadays it's really gone more into web in terms of social media, videos, blogs. But really what content is it's a type of marketing, content marketing, that involves the creation and sharing of online materials. It doesn't explicitly promote the brand per se, but is intended to stimulate interest in the brand's products or services. So we see videos are content, blogs are content, social media posts are content, photos are content, photos on billboards are content. So again, maybe it doesn't say Indigenous Tourism Alberta, but it might be this beautiful photo of somebody fly fishing on the Bow River, and so that will stimulate interest in a particular product or service. So that is the definition of what content is. Why is content important? Content is really important right now because we've seen a huge influx of online booking and online research happening. So when you have beautiful content, it sparks an interest for people to go and book your product or your service. There's actually an entire new something called an experience quotient, and that's the way that we look at different types of travelers. It was created by Destination Canada. So there's actually an entirely new experience quotient based on people who like to look at content and want to go to those places that have those beautiful landscapes. So a whole new section has emerged, and it's really emerged through social media, through Instagram, when people will post these beautiful photos of these amazing areas that they're in, and people will literally change their travel plans to go to those locations. So this is why content is very important. A lot of travelers want to see what they're going to experience before experiencing it. And so when you have good content to put out there, people are more inclined to want to come to your experience because they have a taste of it. It's like a sample version of your experience. So I'm going to go through some really cool ways that content can be used. So content can be used for education. It can be used for information. It can be used for various things. So Métis Crossing, one of our awesome members, they've been going through and creating content on Meet Their Interpreters. So that's really awesome because then people will view this content, and when they come to Métis Crossing, they will be able to put a face to the name, and they can say, oh, you know what? I met Catherine through Instagram. I read about her being in nursing and from her being from the Peace River region, and now I'm really excited to actually meet her in person. She's going to take me on a tour. So this is a really cool way that you can use content for an education purpose and for sparking that kind of interest with your future travelers. We also see, and I actually think that I have Quinn. I think he's watching today, but Drift Out West, yeah, he raised his hand with me. So Drift Out West, Quinn, he uses his social media to really showcase the visitors that he's been having. So he has this awesome picture with 9-year-old Luca. So one, somebody can go and say, oh, I could take my kids on this. My kids can catch an awesome fish. Look how fun they're having, and it's outdoors. So it's a way for them to get information just through looking at a photo. And then they get to see this awesome story of Luca catching his very first fish, jumping up and down, yelling, "Grandpa, I caught my first fish, my very first fish," and how that's really created a moment between the grandfather, the child Luca, and then Quinn himself as a guide. That showcases a really important memory that you can create if you book with Drift Out West Fly Fishing. So that's another really cool way that you can use content. We use content in terms of webinars, like the one that we're doing today. So that's a way that Indigenous Tourism Alberta, one, gets out information. We're able to, engage with our members, but then we also have some consumer-faced content too. So we have these awesome, we're creating a video series called Stories Through Our Eyes, and that's going to really entice the viewers to go and book experiences. So you can really see how content can be used in a variety of different ways. So when you go to create your content, the most important thing that you ask yourself is first, what is your story? So you really want to go through, who are you? What makes you special? What are you good at? And then how do you make people feel? When you go through these kind of questions, it will become apparent to you what kind of content you want to create. I'm going to go through some people who have done this work with themselves and have created some very unique content that is special to them and makes people feel a certain way and entices visitors to come to their experiences. So the first one is Warrior Wren. So Matricia Bauer, she creates a lot of content regarding her medicine walks. And she knows that people really like seeing where she'll pick her medicines, how she makes sage bundles. She makes these beautiful sage bundles that people really love to look at. And then from there, she will then say, hey, I'm having a walk and talk experience. Feel free to come to this experience because these medicines that I've just picked, we're going to go through them. So it's a really good way for her to think, okay, what makes me special? And she really likes to do medicine walks. She really likes to create these beautiful bundles of sage. So that's really what makes her special. And then she's used it to leverage a little bit of advertising as well in a way that doesn't feel like it is advertising. She also uses her social media to tell stories. So she is a jewelry maker as well. And so I love this story that she wrote the other day, where she posted something that she made, but then she posted the creation story behind it, why she made this, how this particular crowfoot was created from the idea of the creation story of the crow bringing fire to the earth. And so she outlined this whole story, and people really loved seeing this photo of this cool jewelry piece that she made, but then she was able to educate at the same time. So this is a really smart use of content. Somebody else who's really good at educating while they use content is Jasper Tour Company. And so Joe Yuri, something that's really awesome that he does is he takes these amazing, well, his tours are based on wildlife viewing tours, but what he then does is he takes photos from his tours. So when he's saying, when you're coming on our tour, this is what you'll be able to see. And then instead of just posting a beautiful photo of an animal, he takes that time to educate and say, oh, Pasqua mustus, that's how you say buffalo in Cree. This is how you say it in Northern Michif. This is how you say it in Blackfoot, Stony, Dene, Sutina. And then also he tells these really funny stories just about the animals that he sees, but then incorporates the Cree and Michif words into those posts. So he's still educating at the same time. And this is a good example of somebody thinking, okay, what makes me special? Okay, what makes me special is that I provide wildlife viewing tours. So how can I leverage that and create content that is based around that and based around the stories that I tell? And then from there, he's able to create these fantastic social media posts. And then somebody else in the food scene who's really fantastic at doing this is Scott Eiserhoff from Papichao. So what he does is he uses these beautiful photos of his food, but then you can also see in the one photo, he's wearing this shirt that says, my love is for my people is stronger than anybody's hate. I've seen him do some other photos where he's cooking and he's wearing a shirt that says equality, you know, so that's really him creating content about his food, but then has this underlying resiliency and reconciliation motion behind the photos. He also uses content to get information out. So for example, he's posted this fantastic photo of his street food tacos that he creates, these powwow tacos, and he posted it and then said, hey, we have a pop-up coming up on Sunday. Pre-orders are now closed. We'll still show you if you serve up. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you. And then we've seen as well that he's been able to use these great photos to get people's attentions, but then to educate them as well. So this is also a really smart use of content. So now you've gone through these ideas of who are you, what makes you special, what kind of story do you share, and how do you make people feel. Now you want to be smart in creating content, so you want to look at who is your target market. So the reason why we look at who our target market is because that will influence how you create your content. So let's say you are an adventure company. You will want to post photos and content of adventures. One, people, again, they get a lot of information from a photo, but they will also be able to say, oh, okay, so that is a bit of a more physically demanding experience. I love physically demanding experiences. I love being outside. I want to book that. Or let's say your target market is more those families, you like to do crafting experiences. Posting photos of that will be really important, or creating content regarding that will be really important. Somebody can easily take a look at the photo on your left and say, oh, okay, my family is welcome to be there. We're going to be doing some hands-on crafting experiences, and it looks like they're having a great time, right? Or if you are trying to get into doing experiences in the winter, post winter photos, post winter video, make those winter content, because then people will know that you're open throughout the winter, that this is what your experience entails, and it just is a good thing to post. So really diving into who is your target market. We talk about this all the time. Everybody's always like, who's your target market? Who's your target market? And it's because it really will affect how you create content, where you even post your content as well. Moonstone Creation, we had them at our Calgary Summit, and they did a fantastic thing throughout COVID. Amy Willier, who does their social media, took a look and said, you know what? We really service families, and we really service people who want to support family-based businesses. That is their target market. So what she did was she started to shift the content that she posted. She started posting about her family. You know, her business is a family-owned business. It is her mother, her child, her son, and then a cousin. And they increased by about 3,000 followers over COVID, just from switching the content that she was sharing, because based on her target market. And then she's even started creating experiences based around her target market. So she thought, okay, you know, we have these family-based businesses, these family-based consumers who want to support family-based businesses. They are at home and they also have families of themselves. What if we created an experience where they could buy kits to learn how to bead poppies at home? And Amy was telling me that they sold them and they sold out instantly. And so this is something, so again, it just really hammers home the idea of focusing your content really around your target market. It's really important. And then eventually, in your experiences should follow that as well. You know, if you're an outdoor guiding, like if you're an outdoor guide and you want people who are kind of middle-aged adventure seekers, then your content should really reflect that as well, because those are then the consumers and the participants that you'll get. Platforms. Again, what kind of platform are you going to use? First off, where is your target market? Let's say if you are more focused around families, maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram, sharing those awesome photos is a way to go. Maybe even YouTube, right? A lot of families are on YouTube. Let's say you are focused more on adventure seekers. I would be more apt to go with Instagram or TikTok. A lot of people are on TikTok now. So really take a look at where your target market is. You will know as well by the amounts of engagement that you get on one platform over the other. Something that I always tell people is just do one really good. You don't have to have an Instagram, a YouTube, a Facebook, a TikTok, a Snapchat. You don't have to have all of those. If you're going to choose one, just choose one and do it really well. And then also make sure that it fits with your brand. What works best for you telling your story? For Warrior Women and Jasper Tour Company, they really like Facebook because they do a lot of kind of like blog writing plus a picture. Whereas if you're posting these awesome photos with a little bit of minimal captions, then maybe Instagram is the way for you to go. If you're really into vlogging, then obviously YouTube is a great way to go. And then if you're into story writing, that is also content. Maybe creating a blog page that's connected to your website. That's a really good way to get information out and to get people interested in you, is writing blogs as well, if that's something that you like to do. So we will have a webinar on kind of like social media 101, and we're also going to be having that kind of a session in our virtual summit, which is coming up on November 4th. So you can buy tickets for that as well with Eventbrite. But we will have a webinar based on that to kind of go through these platforms as well. So you've created this beautiful content. You've decided where you want to use it. These are some kind of tips for you. So it used to be the common practice that you would post the same content across all platforms, but that's no longer the best practice. We've seen that even when it comes to videos, shorter videos do better on Facebook, 30-second videos do better on Instagram, 2 to 5 minute videos do better on YouTube. We've seen even photos are different. We've seen, Instagram now has its story feature where you can create stories. So it's no longer the best practice to post the same across all platforms. So make sure to look at the needs of those different platforms as well if you're going to be posting on said platforms. And then there's the idea of creating, using, and reusing content. So yes, of course, you can create new content. You can take photos yourself. You can do videos yourself. You can write stories yourself. Something that's really awesome that not a lot of people think about is when you have somebody coming to do your experience, they usually will take really good photos. So it is a really good practice to say, hey, can you send me those photos? Could I use those photos afterwards? Two different organizations that do this really well are Explore Edmonton and Travel Alberta. So actually their content, while they create their own content on their Instagram, majority of their content is content that was created by the users, created by those followers. So that's really fantastic because you can see on their accounts, it says tag us to be featured, or use hashtag Explore Edmonton to give us permission to post. So then what they'll do is they'll go through that hashtag and look and say, wow, that's a really good photo. And then they'll repost it, credit the photographer, and then that means that then they have this awesome photo that they didn't have to go out and take, that was already created for them. They're then sharing somebody else's photo, so that person's hyped, is probably going to share that and then get a lot of engagement from it. So you can do that with your own experiences too. We've had some really awesome people take photos of, like, I've had people take photos of me while I'm drumming. I always get them to send it to me afterwards. I always ask for permission and then I'll post it. It's just a really great way. And sometimes the people that come to your experiences take photos from perspectives that you've never thought of before. And so it's a really good way of you to get a big variety of different kinds of content. So again, this is the classic example. Travelers are always taking photos. So make sure you use that. Use that idea of, oh, you've just taken this beautiful this beautiful video of this deer. Do you mind if you send that to me and I'll repost it and I will credit you? It's usually a win-win for both people. People get excited when you repost their own content. And when you're thinking about creating content, there are 3 E's that you should follow. So the first one is engagement. So when you're creating content, it should follow one of these 3 E's. So either you can create content for engagement, so content that's meant to start a conversation. That's when you see opinion pieces on popular topics, something that has, oh, what is your favorite experience to do in the River Valley in Edmonton, something like that, those engagement pieces. Evergreen, that's content that's based around key terms for your own business that then you can refer back to, update for years to come. So content based around your business. And then events, and that's content around a particular event or occurrence that's coming, like big pieces of news or an industry event. And something that I love to tell, and this is the most flattering photo of me ever, is that your content doesn't have to be perfect. I think people get really caught up on trying to make the best photo ever. You know, especially during COVID, we saw some content that came out that had huge engagement, and they were just like videos of a brand at home, or they were blog posts from somebody's closet. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Your content doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it's like engaging, starts a conversation about your brand, all of those different things, then it's totally fine. So I like to post this because on National Indigenous People Day, we created this video, and I created it in my living room. And then we got different operators to send us in just a homemade video telling us about their experience, and I spliced them all together for this National Indigenous Peoples Day, and we've had the most views on this video than any other one of our perfectly made videos. So it just goes to show you that you can create engaging content that's really fantastic, and it doesn't have to be done by a professional film crew. It doesn't have to be perfect. So again, just a couple tips for content creation. We've seen that visual does best. People like visual things. Visual just does best. We see a lot of people are more apt to post a photo along with educational information, just because people get drawn in by the photo, they'll stay for the story. Videos, as I had mentioned before, video length, it varies due to whatever platform, if you're going to create content in a video-based form. And then a good tip is actually to make a content and social media calendar. With us at Indigenous Tourism Alberta, we have that. So we know what kind of content we're going to be creating for the next month. And it frees up time for us, so that the day of, we're not thinking, oh no, I haven't created anything, like I better post this. And then if something comes up, you can just put that in. And the reason why it's good to create a social media calendar is so that then you're consistent. You're consistent with your posting. We often get questions regarding, okay, how much should I be posting? Should I be posting once every 3 days? Should I be posting this? It doesn't really, whatever works for you is really what we tell people, whatever works best for you. But then just to make sure that you're consistent, if there's a couple months that go by and you haven't posted anything, that's not really the best. Trying to stay consistent, at least with your posting, and a social media calendar will really help out with this. All right. So now we're going to move on a little bit. Ooh, I lost my, there we go. We're going to move on a little bit to content creation for Indigenous experiences. This is both for Indigenous operators as well as non-Indigenous operators. If you work for, let's say, tourism a destination marketing organization or a provincial marketing organization. These are just some really good tips. So the first one, and this goes for everybody, try not to hone in on stereotypes. So this means showcasing Indigenous culture as being part of present day, not always showing the old times. So this is even for our Indigenous operators. We always try to tell them, you know, showcase yourself and create that kind of content that shows that we are still here, that we are thriving culture, that we have these awesome experiences. So just showing us in not always like the Indigenous chief in a headdress heading down the mountains on a horse. You know, we do say that sometimes, but not as much today. So make sure to just not hone in on stereotypes for yourself and for other Indigenous people. When you're creating content, don't photograph ceremony. For smudging, it changes. It is really dependent on the person and the tribe that they're from. So I cannot give you a definitive yes or no answer on smudging, but things that should never be photographed are sweats, pipe ceremonies, and sun dances. So that's both for Indigenous as well as non-Indigenous. Make sure that you have permission to photograph if there's a ceremony. And then always asking before you photograph sacred items. And this is even if you yourself have that sacred item. Just thinking for yourself, is this appropriate for me to be sharing? Is this okay with my elders and community? So always just make sure to ask. And then if you're creating content and you want to use Indigenous music, make sure that you get copyright for those songs. Drum songs in particular, I'm a drum keeper myself, and I know that drum songs are shared amongst drummers. So you should make sure that whoever is the original creator of that song, that you have given them protocol for one to sing that song, but two, if you are going to be using that song, you need permission and copyright from that person. So this is always, just make sure that if you're ever creating content with Indigenous music, that is still it's still intellectual property, and that you have to get those permissions in place. And then be flexible on filming. If you're going to create content, this is more so for non-Indigenous content creators. If you're wanting to create a film or create content with a community, be flexible on filming. Just the other day, actually, we were going to have a couple meetings at a community, but they had a funeral, so the entire community shut down. And you just have to be flexible with that. You know, we've sent in film crews before, and something has happened. They've had to completely change the date. So just remember to be a little bit flexible on filming. And then if you are Indigenous and you're filming on your reserve, make sure that the film crew knows and that they're respectful of that. And if you are non-Indigenous coming onto somebody's land, or if you are not from that nation, just be respectful. And then always showcasing what the community or the entrepreneur wants to showcase. So if you are a content creator, make sure that you give them the final, is this okay for me to share? Is this fine? You know, we've had it in the past with blog writers. They should always send the entrepreneur the information afterwards and say, are these quotes okay for me to say when I create this content? And then also, if you're filming on your own reserve, make sure that your chief and council knows and that they've given you permission to do that. If you're in the parks, you have to make sure that you get a parks license. All of these different kinds of things. So just make sure that there's permission in place if you're going to create content on a place. And then be aware and careful of cultural appropriation. And this is for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. If you are Indigenous, make sure that you are welcome to share what you're going to share, and that you're not sharing teachings from another tribe, for example, unless you've been given those teachings and been blessed with that. And then if you are non-Indigenous, always make sure that it is coming from an Indigenous person, and that I always tell people, I say, if you are on the fence about if something is cultural appropriation or not, actually, if you take out intention, it will make it very black and white. Or if it's not about your culture, don't do it. Okay, and then we have a couple things on protocol. So you'll want to make sure, let's say you want to have some content from an elder, make sure that you offer them protocol. We've made sure that even when our film crew this summer went out, we made sure that they gave protocol to our operators as well. Protocol varies from person to person. Typically it is offering tobacco and red cloth, and you deal with protocol when you are dealing with teachings of culture. So if there are going to be teachings of culture, that's typically when you want to offer protocol. And then when in doubt, just ask. So it is pretty customary to offer protocol if you're creating content and somebody's going to be sharing something for you. Make sure again to ask before photographing artists, sacred items, using music, and then always ask permission as well from chief and council if you're going to be filming on nation land. I really like this particular resource. It's from Yorkton Film. For any of our content creators out there that are listening today, or if you are Indigenous operator and you want to learn about some best practices for creating content on Indigenous culture, look at Screen Protocols and Pathways from Yorkton Film, and it's a fantastic document that goes through the ideas of reciprocity, respect, what should be showcased, what shouldn't be showcased, and taking you through a little bit of protocol in terms of media and content creation regarding culture. So that's a really good resource. Perfect. So I've reached the end of my spiel and my talking part. So I am going to open the floor for any questions right now. So you can either hit the question and answer box if you have any questions, or you can we have a chat function as well. I was just reading, there's a couple chats. Yeah, so I have a chat from Matricia here with Warrior Women, and she said something that she did was she also looked at her target market this year with COVID, and she realized that that one of her target markets were people who wanted to create and who wanted to stay safe at home. So what she's been able to actually do was she created an experience where she will go into somebody's bubble and go into their home and do moccasin making courses. And it's so far, she launched it about 2 weeks ago, and she has 5 bookings for that to across Alberta to go into people's homes and teach them so that they are safe and that they are in their own home. So that is a fantastic story about shifting due to your target market and what they want. All right, so if anybody has any other questions, I'll keep it open for about 1 more minute. And if you are sitting at home later and you're thinking, oh dang, I had a question, I totally didn't ask it, you can always email us at info@indigenoustourisamalberta.ca, or you can go to our website at www.indigenoustourism.alberta.ca as well. Okay, here we have a question. Okay, Mackenzie, Shannon here. Hi, Shannon. Shannon is from Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park. Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park is undergoing major changes and upgrades. Would it be useful to use this as content? And our billboard is also getting refreshed. What would you recommend for content besides directions to our building? That's a great question. I totally recommend taking photos of your upgrades and using it on your social media. You can use it as who's excited about these new changes, or new changes are coming, we're really pumped about it, those kind of things. I know when Métis Crossing was undergoing some big renovations, they posted about their renovations a lot, and they got a lot of engagement, a lot of feedback, because they would ask questions like, what do you think this is going to look like? Some questions, and they even got some of the architects. They got Tiffany Shaw Collins, their Métis architect, to do a couple content posts about different parts of the renovations too. So I definitely recommend using that as content. That would be really fantastic for BCHP. And then in terms of your billboard, what would you recommend content beside directions to our building? When it comes to billboards, content that would be really great is when you could put the story of Blackfoot Crossing. You could put, I know that your guys's facility has some amazing architectural things. So you could put, did you know this was the architect that created this building? Did you know the feathers when you're walking in, these signify this? Shannon, I even remember you talking about the entranceway being kind of like a buffalo, a buffalo, I forget what it's called, but when you would put buffalo into there and get them to run before the buffalo run, there we go. So you could even have information about that. You could have information for upcoming events. Let's say you did an entire billboard for a month on the elders or the staff that are there, telling the staff story. You know, this is Shannon Bear Chief, and this is what she does at BCHP, or highlighting other staff, highlighting summer students. So there's a lot of different things that you could do on your billboard as well. And feel free to reach out to me as well, because I'd love to chat with you about this too. All right, I think we have another one. Here we go. We had a local art gallery post a display of Indigenous art, not Blackfoot art, but Haida art. And they're on Blackfoot territory, this particular art gallery. Is it okay to share photos of the gallery during this time? Would you suggest not using photos of the gallery during this exhibition in it? So that's a really good question, actually. I think what would really be appropriate in terms of art is not necessarily posting photos of that particular piece of art, but maybe of the whole room, and then saying something such as, we're really excited to have different Haida art at our gallery right now, and then share some information about that, because yes, I know that you guys are on Blackfoot territory, and even though it's a Haida art gallery display right now, it would be appropriate to post a photo of the room and then explaining that it is Haida art. And then that even gives you the opportunity to say, we are on Blackfoot territory and excited to have our neighbors from British Columbia on showcasing their art on Treaty 7 territory right now, right? It gives a good opportunity to post, and then also create some education regarding that as well. I hope that answers your question. And then thank you. Will we get a copy of your presentation? Yes, you can. So this presentation will actually be posted on our YouTube right afterwards. And so I can send, Shannon, I can send you a link to this webinar. And then I can also download the PowerPoint so that I can send it to you as well. Perfect. So I think that might be all of the questions. I'm just checking just to make sure. Fantastic. Okay, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. And this webinar will be posted on our on our Facebook and our YouTube. And I believe next week, actually, we have a special pop-up webinar, and it is about a gifting initiative that we're going to be doing for the upcoming holiday season. So if you're one of our members, please listen to that. And thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day.